Good evening from Berkeley, California, 8:33 p.m. my time. This is John Michael DeBella. This goes out to all my fellow Survivor fans on all the Survivor Facebook groups that I'm on. I am going to be doing an assessment of 15 seasons of Survivor that I own on DVD, seasons 1 through 14, and Survivor Heroes vs. Villains. So, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to talk about what could have happened in those seasons instead of what happened in the seasons. Now, in the first season of Survivor, Survivor Borneo, it was the first time this game was ever played. You know, it was 16 castaways forced to work together on an island while creating a new society while battling the elements and each other and voting each other off every 3 days. So, you know, Richard Hatch, who was the original winner, you know, was the original mastermind. He had this alliance with Sue, Rudy, and Kelly, and they made it to the end, all four of them. What I think could have happened was if BB, who was a 63-year-old real estate agent, if he kept his mouth shut and he wasn't as stubborn, he could have made it a lot further than he did, BB Anderson. And I think that if the Pagan tribe would have stuck together, they could have gotten Toggy off one by one. Gretchen probably would have made it further. Greg would have made it further. Colleen would have made it further. And Jervis probably would have made it further. Yeah, and I think Pagan just didn't have it together strategically because, you know, this was the first time and they didn't really know how to play the game. So, in the Australian Outback, Survivor the Australian Outback, the winner was Tina, who was one of my favorite winners. What I think would have happened differently is that if Jerry Manthe did not accuse Kel Gleason of smuggling in beef jerky, Kel probably would have made it further. Tina would have been voted off, and Tina would never have won. And I think the Kucha tribe would have dominated if Michael Skupin had not fallen in that fire. I think it would have gone. Jerry would have been voted off, and then it would have been Colby, and then it would have been Keith, and then it would have been Tina, and then it would have been Amber. No, Amber and then Tina. And the final six would have been the six Kucha. So it just goes to show you how luck can fit into this game. Survivor Africa, the winner was Ethan. This was the first season I saw halfway. I didn't see the whole season in its entirety until I saw it on TV again when they had the shows played again, and I bought it on DVD. So I think what could have happened differently is that if they never did the tribal switch and they just kept it the way they did the first two seasons traditionally, I think that Silas would not have been voted off 5th. I think he would have been the first one voted off at the merge, though. I think that Frank and Teresa would have been voted off if Samburu would have lost those two challenges. And it would have been Silas voted off first, and then Lindsay as the first juror, and then Brandon would have been voted off, and then Kim Powers. And the final six would have been the 6 Moran members. Clarence and Kelly would have made it much further, and Lex probably wouldn't have gone on his witch hunt. Survivor Marquesas. This was the first season that I saw in its entirety on television. Now, in this season, this was a season where players actually made some very big moves. You know, when it got to the final 9, well, first of all, before I get to that, I'd like to say I think that Peter, Patricia, and Hunter being the first three voted off were very, very stupid. Peter gave them fire. Patricia was strong at camp. She wasn't strong in the challenges, but she was strong at camp. And Hunter was a beast. And they were the first three voted off over Sarah and Sean. Jeez. So, anyways, yeah. So I just feel like Rob Mariano, Boston Rob, actually had a big hand in voting off the first four members of the jury because he basically exposed them to everybody, and then Kathy had to open Pascal and Leah's eyes. You know, the four, John, Zoe, Tammy, and Rob DeCanio, the general, were all very cocky and thinking they were going to make it to the final four. And they got outwitted and outplayed, and they were the first four jurors. And that was when people were really starting to think and play the game. It took them 4 seasons, but it happened after four seasons. Now, I really think the whole Purple Rock thing with Pascal was very stupid. I think if that had never happened, that stupid tiebreaker, Pascal and Kathy would have been the final two, and Pascal would have won. Not for Sepia and Erlia. I think those two were one of the worst final two ever, to be honest. Survivor Thailand. Now, this was ranked as one of the worst seasons ever, but it has two of some of my favorite characters. It has Sheehan and Rob Zabatnik. I wish that they would have made it longer, but you know what? Those two made the seasons watchable, in my opinion, and they were very likable, even though they were free jurors. And you know, I bet you if Sukjai would have just been together, like if Sukjai at the final 11 were together, they probably could have picked off all the Chewy gone one by one, and the final 6 would have been who would have been Rob, Sheehan, Penny, Aaron, Jake, and Ken. But I think what was really stupid was that they assumed that there was a merge, and they voted Rob off over Sheehan, and Sheehan was going to backstab them. But Rob wouldn't have done that. So I just think that was really stupid that they assumed there was going to be a merge. Survivor Amazon. This was one of the best seasons. I think how it could have gone differently was that I feel like that Jenna Maraska, who I did not like this season, but I liked her in All Stars, was one of the least deserving winners ever. And I think Rob Cesternino should have won because he was smart and strategic. He backstabbed, he lied, but you know what? He would have been the best Survivor winner, I think. You know, Survivor Pearl Islands. Now in this season, this was one season that's one of the rare seasons where the first 6 people that voted off become outcasts and they come back for a chance to play in the game. I didn't like the twist. You know, I felt like it screwed Andrew Savage and Rupert over. I think Andrew Savage and Rupert would have gone a lot further, and I think maybe Johnny Fairplay would have been voted off quickly. Survivor All-Stars. I didn't like Rob, and I didn't like Amber as the final 2. I really think that Tom, Rupert, and Jenna should have gotten together and voted them both off. They should have done that when... You know what? To this day, I really think Lex did not do the same thing that Rob did to him like he did to Colby, Ethan, and Jerry, because he did not make an agreement with them. I'll just say that. That's how I feel. He didn't make an agreement with them, but Rob said, if you take care of her, I'll take care of you. He shook his hand and looked him straight in the eye and said he would take care of him. And he backstabbed him. You know, he didn't keep his word. You know, that's how I really feel to this day. And you can agree or disagree with me, but that's how I feel. Um, Survivor Vanuatu, Island of Fires. I feel like this is one of the most underrated seasons ever. It has some of my favorite players. I liked Chris as the winner because he was the underdog of Survivor Vanuatu. And I think what happened differently is that the guys did not vote off their strongest guys early on because they needed their strength. But they saw the younger guys as bigger threats, so that's why a bunch of the guys got voted off so early, and why they lost a lot of their challenges was because they got rid of the strongest ones early because they saw them as threats. But you shouldn't be doing that in a game of Survivor because you need your strongest ones to win the challenges. Maybe that's why most of the women outlasted 95 to 98% of the men. Survivor Palau, one of my favorite seasons, and this is the first time that one tribe dominated a whole other tribe. I really think that the producers should have had them merge when Bobby John and Stephanie were at the last two of their tribe. You know, I really don't think that's fair. Bobby John didn't get voted off. He lost to Stephanie in a fire-making challenge. I just thought that was totally unfair. You know, granted, even if Bobby John and Stephanie made it there, they probably would have been the first two voted off. Or maybe Cody would have been voted off. We don't know. But anyway, I really think they deserved a fair chance. Survivor Guatemala. I think that Stephanie and Bobby John were brought back too soon, right after Palau. They should have been on Fans versus Favorites, Micronesia. And I feel that... Oh, I found my Survivor buff. Found my 20-year anniversary Survivor buff. My 10-year anniversary Survivor buff. So I'll wear that. Yeah, I'll wear it. So anyway, I feel that Stephanie and Bobby John came back too quickly, right after Survivor Palau. But, you know, Bobby John made it to the jury and Stephanie made it to the final two. There were some people that got voted off early on this season that I wish made it further, like Morgan, Brianna, Brian, Amy, and Margaret. You know, I really liked Margaret. I felt like Judd really bullied her really bad. Amy, I think I said. Brandon, you know. Survivor Panama, Exile Islands. I think that if Bobby Dog, who I think is one of the most underrated Survivor contestants ever, who was the fifth one voted off, if he made it to the merge, the four younger guys would have probably made it to the final four. I think that if Terry would have won the final immunity challenge, he would have won. And I think that if Sari would have won that fire challenge and she made it to the final two, she would have won. So that's what I think would have happened. Cook Islands. I think that if JP, watching the season a couple of times, what JP and what Ozzy did with Billy on Cook Islands on the second episode with the Atui tribe was suicidal. You know, they threw this challenge just to vote one person off, and that did them in, except for Ozzy, who made it to the final two. But the Rarotonga tribe, you know, Jonathan, Parvati, Candace, and Adam, they didn't vote for him because they didn't respect what he did to Billy. So basically, Ozzy, that was the downfall for the Atui tribe, or the Hispanic tribe. None of them made it to the jury. Ozzy made it to the final three, but those guys didn't respect him. That's why he didn't win. So I'm not sure if this is going to pause at 15 minutes. It may or may not. If it doesn't, I'll continue. If not, I'll make a second video. Let's see if it stops. I'm not sure if it will. Okay, it's continuing. So anyway, um, Survivor Fiji, which was also ranked as one of the worst seasons, but it's, to be honest, it's one of my favorites. It has some very likable people, you know. Um, I kind of didn't like it that Jessica was the first one voted off. I really liked her. Erica was a pretty strong player too. Um, who was the second one voted off? What happened to Gary, aka Papa Smurf, was unfortunate. You know, he got evacuated, but I think he would have made it further if he didn't get evacuated, and I think he could have won because he was very, very likable. I liked Liliana and Lisi, who were, I mean, not Lisi, Liliana and, yeah, Liliana. I thought she was pretty strong, and she got voted off very early. Um, she was seen as a threat, and, you know, who else? Man, Michelle really got screwed over by when they merged, but they had two groups separated, and that went to tribal council. If that did not happen, Michelle probably would have made it a lot further, and she probably could have won too. Man, what Dreams did to Yao-Man was very, very despicable. You know, Yao-Man, out of the kindness of his heart, said that if he won immunity at the final four, you know, that he would give him the immunity, and he gave him the car. Dreams totally screwed him over, and I hate Dreams. And I think Yao-Man would have won if that didn't happen. But I still think Earl was deserving. Um, who else? Oh, Survivor Heroes versus Villains. Now this is the second time that Russell Hans has played, and he thinks he's the best. But no, Russell Hans will never be the best unless he's won twice like Sandra did. And, you know, so anyway, I really think that, yeah, I really think that if all those other 19 contestants had seen his season, you know, they were doing the season while his season was being aired, they probably would have voted him off really, really quickly because they would have known that they couldn't have trusted him. And I really think that Randy, Tyson, Boston Rob fell victim to Russell because they didn't know how he played the game the last time, and so did Coach and Courtney. You know, they fell victim to Russell, and so did JT because he didn't know how he was, you know, and Russell voted off Danielle because he thought that Parvati and Danielle were much closer. And I totally think that if Rupert could have convinced all the heroes to vote off Russell, Russell would not have made it to the final three. Because Rupert believed Sandra, but he couldn't convince all the other heroes. They should have listened to Sandra and Rupert, and they could have gone further. And I really think that if Colby would have won immunity at the final five, I think that Russell might have been voted off if he could have convinced some people to vote him off. And Jerry could have, if Jerry and Sandra and Parvati were the final three, Jerry could have won. I found her very likable that season. I didn't find her likable in All Stars or in Australian Outback. Alright everybody, this is my review on the 15 seasons of Survivor that I own on DVD, about what could have happened. I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace. The next season will premiere on September 19th. Survivor Blood vs. Water. Eddie, Eddie, yoddy, 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 yoddy. Bye.